looking at forms of mass consumption ranging from music to film to shopping. What I want to do in this introductory lecture is to provide a contextual overview of this country. And let's start with what China looks like from an arrival viewpoint. From the United States, people will arrive in China either through Beijing or Shanghai. And what will strike you, the visitor, upon arrival is, on the one hand, just how fast everything is and how big everything is. The highways are big, the sidewalks are big, the shopping malls are big. The other thing that may well strike you is the newness of these cities. This, for many people, is quite shocking because, of course, they think of China as a place of tradition. And yet, for example, when we look at, say, the field of architecture, China is a place that the most famous architects in the world all want to work in because it's a place in which they can actually do stuff on the edge. We've all heard of the Water Cube and the Bird's Nest, two sports facilities built specifically for the Beijing Olympics in 2008. But also, what will strike you is, as you walk around the streets of Beijing or Shanghai, is the remarkable landscape, the cityscape. But beyond the surface affluence, beyond the shopping malls and the fast food restaurants and the gleaming new subways and the skyscrapers, there's a key issue that many people focus on. And that, of course, is two paradoxical narratives about this country. One narrative that often associated with outside critics of the Chinese government is that China is a country ruled by a repressive regime. It is, in some sense. It's a one-party state. It's a country that continues to be ruled by the Chinese Communist Party. It's a party that does not tolerate political dissent. And yet, on the other hand, it's a party that, in the last 20 years, has brought remarkable economic change to the country. These changes have led to many unintended consequences. So, for example, China has a very serious air pollution problem. There's a very serious water pollution problem. There are very serious side effects of these programs. There is a very serious environmental crisis happening in China these days. There is a rising problem with the trafficking of women. But on the other hand, it probably makes more sense to compare China not to the United States or to the UK or to Canada, but to a place like India. And what I like to do is to try to get people to think about those two countries. And in doing so, although this is very difficult, we need to try to put ourselves in the situation of being a citizen of, say, India or China. And then simple condemnations of a place like China become much more difficult. These are countries in which their governments have to grapple with problems that are, in some sense, remarkably more complex than the same problems here. One very simple example is the issue of illegal migration. Even the harshest critics of immigration policies in the United States point to an estimate of about 12 million potential illegal migrants living in the U.S., undocumented. In China, the government itself admits or notes that there are at least 150 million undocumented illegal migrants in urban cities. That's about half the population of the United States. Other issues stand out. For middle-class consumers in places like New Delhi or Beijing, the problems that they deal with and the concerns they have are in many ways precisely like the concerns that middle-class people here have. They want to see a better life for their children. They want to be able to have vacations. They want to know that the future is secure. They want social stability. They want to feel safe walking around. They worry about things like inflation and crime. And in that sense, although it may seem odd from our perspective, there are a great many people in urban China, I think, who actually do not think that their government is doing a bad job.